think education is where you start to get in the right position to farm. In this day and age of high capital inputs, it's a lot easier to have a family that's involved and have those capital outlays already put out. Have those there in place so you don't have to go get financing for all those inputs. There's a lot of things that could be used, shared with other family members, father, son, or brothers, or something like that. So it's a lot better not to have all those capital outlays right at the start. So that's family becomes really important. Here again, you need to set up a plan. I mean, you can't just say, hey, I need to start building I need to start off with a shed. Just an example, for me, when I graduated from college, I came back, I had all these ideas that how I wanted to spend money. I wanted to build confinement hog buildings. My father at the time said he didn't think that was the right investment in the late 70s to do that. As it turned out, he was right with the high interest rates. So you've got to have the high interest rates that came in the 80s, and a lot of guys that did what I thought were the right thing to do in the late 70s. The experience of somebody that's been in it or had an idea of what was the right thing to do kind of steered me away from that. So I think that's where you have to kind of go with what a plan that will make you make sense financially and isn't too crazy, too much financial burden on you or maybe the rest of the family that you would make by borrowing too much money or getting too much debt. Graduated high school in 1973. I had projects with livestock and basically started raising hogs in high school. I did that throughout my college years from 73 through 77. I'd come home and had partnership with my dad on hogs. So those were kind of the years working into it, and then 1977 I started rented some ground for the first time, and it was some ground that a farm that my grandpa had just bought, and he rented it to me at that time. So that was how I got started, and I was using my father's equipment and proceeded from there. So 1977, I guess officially that's 34 years. I went to Iowa State from 73 to 77, majored in animal science, and I took a lot of meteorology classes and agronomy. I took broad-based, my major was animal science, and I've always been more, animal agriculture was something that I was really interested in. I've kind of transformed into more of a just crop farmer as I've got older. We still have livestock, so, but college was a good basis for what I needed to know about animal agriculture, but not so much the stuff we learned book-wise, the socialization, the networking of people throughout the state, the farmers that were, or farm kids from other parts of the state, met them, talked to them, got to know how their operations worked, visited with them throughout my farming career, so to speak, and about challenges that they have, changes that were taking place. So I think the experience of meeting those people in college and the education that I got from networking from them was probably more valuable than the actual book learning that I had in college. My wife has a part-time job. She works out of the house, but of my income, I work solely with the farm. My income solely from the farm, and so I suppose of our income together about 85 to 90% of the income is from the farm operation. The hog part, as I started, that was probably 50% of my income was attributed to hogs, and now that's back to about 15 to 20%. so that's how it's transformed, and that's because I have a larger land base now. And the hog, I basically am raising about the same number of hogs, but as I started farming more ground, the amount of money I've made on hogs is less percentage-wise than it was. Technology part and the how that's adapted and changed over the last even 10 years has been dramatic. I mean, the GPS and the variable rate seeds and variable rate fertilizer, seed technology, the biotech seeds. The changes have just exponentially. It just seems like it's like a freight train and it just keeps going faster and faster. So yeah, it's changed dramatically. Be prepared for some failures, some things that, as a young farmer, there'll be some, you'll make some mistakes. You have to learn to overcome those. Try to learn from them, definitely, and don't get maybe not. I guess the other thing, not to get so wrapped up in the changes that are taking place, which are extremely rapid, we talked about. But there's a lot of things that I think maybe try some out, visit with some other farmers, see if they're working, but not maybe make that big plunge right into every newfangled thing that comes out, because I think there's a lot of good things happening, but as a young farmer, you want to make sure and not kind of fall in that trap of adding to your troubles by making mistakes on some of them. So I think the future looks very bright right now. There will be another dip. There always is. I mean, the late 70s, when I started farming, it was a boom time, kind of like it is now. Everybody was making money. It was positive, but everything is cyclical, and we went through a lot of the 80s and 90s, and things were tight. I'm not saying we're going to go back to 20 years like that, but we got to be careful to be prepared. Make sure you don't get extended out too far, because there'll probably be a time when it isn't as good as it is right now. I think it's really good, and I think it will continue to be a good way to make a living, but I think you also have to be prepared for some roadblocks ahead.